There we go.
Got it. Okay. Andy Katz has been a director of East Bay Municipal Utility District since 2006. And he has also been a lifelong environmental steward and advocate. He has attended and spoken to our group several times about the COP meetings, which started out as the Paris Accords. I don't know if you've been to all of them, but he's certainly been to many of them. And he, as a water quality director, has been very interested in protecting our water quality, and also in protecting our aging infrastructure and dealing with fire safety and vegetation management, as well as many other water issues. And he previously was the chair of the Sierra Club California, and apparently led efforts on the Alameda County Steering Committee that launched East Bay Clean Energy, which is now AVA. I don't know if it's pronounced AVA, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. And anyway, he is very, very knowledgeable, and I always learn a lot when we hear from him. And it is very appropriate that this has really been the first real rain day of the season on the very same day that we're dealing with water. So, Andy.
Thank you, Carol. And thank you, League of Women Voters. It's a pleasure to be back with you to be talking about East Bay MUD issues. The main theme of our presentation is investing in the future. It's a great thing to be able to come and talk with you when we're not in a drought emergency. We are in a long-term climate emergency, so we're always preparing for drought, but we're also getting ready for the challenges ahead, like our aging infrastructure, like the need to be resilient to wildfires, the sea level rise, and many issues that confront our operations as one part of local government. So one thing that I do want to get started with is, because today is Indigenous Peoples Day, I want to acknowledge that the land that our East Bay community on Hitchun Ohlone land gathers water from reservoirs on land that is the historic home of the Sierra Miwok, who continue to practice activities like intergenerational basket weaving along the McCollum River, which was, for me at least, a significant factor in the board embracing its protection as a California wild and scenic river, which was a major chapter in East Bay MUD's history about a decade ago. And we acknowledge that Comanche Reservoir occupies a historic and sacred Miwok burial ground. So with that, I'm glad to acknowledge the land that we are on and that we gain our water services from. And now let's talk about how do we, as East Bay MUD, invest in the future. So where does our water come from? I just referred to some of those places. So on the next slide, you can see that our water comes from many miles away in the McCollum River watershed. So at the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that the McCollum River is situated right in between Amador County to the north and Calaveras County to the south, Alpine County at the far eastern portion. And, of course, those lines aren't really, clear. The county lines aren't clearly drawn on the screen. The lines that you're seeing here are the watershed lines. Water always wins when it comes to understanding how watersheds work. The area shaded in blue is where the snowpack falls and melts into the McCollum River watershed. It melts into various forks upcountry in the McCollum River, and then drains into the river and flows down dozens of miles into Pardee Reservoir. Pardee Reservoir is where we hold our drinking water, and then we generate renewable energy through hydropower at the Pardee Dam, and Pardee Dam is what holds back the water at the reservoir so that we're able to reserve it for the times that we need it to drink, which is year round. So then you can see the large line that goes from along Pardee through, just below Comanche Reservoir, through the Delta and into our East Bay Mud service area. Those McCullum aqueducts cover 85-mile long water supply pipelines to bring our water to us, almost entirely gravity fed. We also store water in Comanche Reservoir just below Pardee. And Comanche Reservoir works differently. We use them together, but Comanche Reservoir primarily functions for making sure that there's always water flow into the lower McCullum River. Our two reservoirs are situated, in the middle of this long river. And it means that we don't have natural flow of fish between the lower McCullum and the upper McCullum River. We're thinking about how do we improve the ecosystem to address that. We also need to make sure that we always have a fishery that works well in the lower McCullum River, because that's where the fish are really flowing in and out of the Delta and out to sea. So we're always making sure that we're managing temperature of a cold water pool just below Comanche Reservoir so that we can have a strong fishery. We're looking at habitat restoration. We have lots of important projects that we're doing around Comanche, and it's important for flood control. If we didn't manage Comanche Reservoir properly, we would have a lot of risk of flooding in nearby communities like Stockton and Lodi. So that's an important service of Comanche. You can see up on the top, the Freeport Regional Water Facility. That's where we connect up to the Sacramento River and exercise our partnership with the Federal Central Valley Project. And we draw from that river during dry years only. We don't use that, in a typical year, even though droughts are getting to be more common. And then in the EBMUD service area, we have 332 square miles of land that's served by our infrastructure. We serve nearly 1.5 million people, and make sure that we are delivering clean and safe and reliable water day in and day out. And some other important facts to share that I think are important to note is that we, excuse me. About 90% of the water from the East Bay comes from the Sierra Nevada. So we're primarily collecting water in that upper McCullum River watershed. And 10% of our water is gathered in local reservoirs, primarily over the hills in the East of Hills area, and also in Lake Chabot. So that's about 10% of our water supply and storage. The next slide, you can see some of the statistics that I just read off, but you can also see that we are serving all of you with 4,200 miles of pipeline. That's a lot of pipe. We operate in complex pressure zones where we have to make sure that everybody is getting good water pressure. We store reservoirs at different elevations to make sure that the engineering allows for a balance of water pressure and serving everyone with gravity-fed water supply. We do have to pump it up to get to those gravity-fed places. So it's a complex system, and there's a lot of careful engineering at work here. I also call attention on the wastewater side. We have wastewater operations that you can see in the shaded box. So we don't serve the entire East Bay community with our wastewater services, but we make sure that we protect San Francisco Bay by having a main wastewater treatment plant that we work with our cities to collect the wastewater, and then it's conveyed into our collection system, and then we treat the wastewater at roughly around the MacArthur Maze. We also operate wet weather facilities that we use for overflow in some of these heavy storm events to make sure that when we get big storms that we use those facilities to ensure that we don't have overflow, which would mean raw sewage going into the bay. So our wastewater treatment plant is essential for keeping San Francisco Bay clean and safe for people and for fish and all of its users. And I'll take
Director
questions.
Katz, would you like to take questions as we go? I see Carol's hand. Would you like to take questions as we go, or?
I'll take questions at the end.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll wait.
Thank you. So these are the big challenges that we're facing. First, aging infrastructure. We want to invest and renew infrastructure for reliability and resiliency. Our water supply. This is on the next slide. So we're planning for water supply into the future. Our environment. We're ensuring environmental stewardship for the watershed and San Francisco Bay. Climate change, adapting to climate change through infrastructure investments. We also have a fantastic zero net energy goal that we're moving towards by 2030 to have zero emissions out of our operations. And so we're not just adapting for climate change, we're also a part of the solution. And our fiscal responsibility, maintaining strong financial position and sustainable finances. So first, let's talk about investing in water supply. First and foremost, we want to be thinking about the future and making sure that our long-term water supply is reliable for us. And it's important to me to understand that we're getting that future water supply from a source that's sustainable, that continues our long history of being a steward for the environment, and that we don't impact or damage the environment to the extent we can. So the McCollum supply is variable and vulnerable to droughts and climate change. We know that we're getting more frequent and more intense droughts because of climate change. And so that's why we have water conservation and water reuse programs that help us reduce demand. So in recent droughts, we've brought in supplemental supplies. That's what I referred to with our Freeport project. That we have a Freeport intake facility on the Sacramento River, and we're exploring other diversified supplies. We have a partnership with some rice farms along the Feather River in far northern California. So we're also exploring very critical partnerships with farms in the northern San Joaquin Valley that I think are very important to preserve the groundwater basin and the areas in the North Valley, because the northern San Joaquin Valley is, like much of the Central Valley, is losing its groundwater storage. And those partnerships and operationalizing many of the long understood principles about how to partner on preserving our groundwater aquifers, we're doing that. So we're moving forward on that, but we're not yet actually taking water and bringing it into our system in a large scale just yet. So we're updating our water supply plan over the next year to achieve a reliable supply through 2055. This diagram shows the different topics, the different main buckets of water supply in our portfolio. Our most recent study showed that our customers achieved, counting back several droughts ago, 46 million gallons a day of water conservation. So if you had thought about what would we be, where would we be at if we didn't have a conservation ethos, if we didn't have efficient toilets, efficient appliances in our clothes washers or dishwashers, drought resistant plants that many of our customers are embracing instead of very large lawns. What are all of the different ways that make sense to different people in different ways, but collectively we are saving 45 million gallons per day of water conservation, and we want to increase that even more. Our goal is to increase water conservation to 70 million gallons per day by the year 2050. So in addition, we're looking into groundwater storage banking projects to bank water in those wet years and extract water during dry years. So these are all of the different components of our water supply program. And we, of course, do plan that in droughts, we'll need an extra push from our customers. So we consider drought demand reductions during those emergencies up to 10 to 15% to be an important part of our portfolio too. And so this table on the next slide shows more information on the potential supplemental supply sources. While we have a successful non-potable reuse program that provides recycled water for irrigation and industrial uses, we also will explore the potential for using highly purified recycled water as a drinking supply in the future. I am interested in feedback about this. I'm very concerned about ensuring that we do not expose people to PFAS, that we make sure that we keep our water quality high. But we need to make sure that we are maximizing conservation. But we have to look at all of the water supply options, particularly when new technology allows us to convey water that's reliable and safe. So this is something that many California agencies are considering or have implemented, and that we're paying close attention to what other communities are doing. And next, let's talk about investing in infrastructure. So this slide highlights 3 of our largest treatment plant upgrade projects. So the first 2 are at Orinda Water Treatment Plant and Upper San Leandro Water Treatment Plant. Those are currently in construction, and the third one at the right in Walnut Creek is currently in design. So the drivers for all of these 3 projects include safety, maintenance, reliability, resiliency, and water quality. You may remember that drought, it was many years ago, but in the last major 4-year drought, in that last year, we had that situation where the water had that algae kind of taste for just a couple months. We're glad that it was temporary and it never caused any safety issues. It was always safe to drink. But we took those taste and odor issues very seriously. It was the first time it had ever happened, and it's just because the water level in Pardee Reservoir sank so low that the intake valve was just at the level where a small plume of algae had bloomed. And so we took that seriously and said, well, we need to really be able to make sure that our water treatment plants are up to the task of being able to clear those sorts of taste and odor issues in the future. So our water treatment plant is now able to actually neutralize those types of issues going forward. I'm very excited that we've made that investment, so that we will, little things like that make a big difference for making sure that people can always rely and trust our water are underway. So the water treatment plant disinfection and project in Orinda is critical because that's really the heart of our water treatment system. It serves 800,000 people in the water service area. And so the scope includes that new disinfection process after filtration and an overhaul of the major electrical and backup power systems. So the Upper San Leandro Water Treatment Plant maintenance and reliability project is also under construction and scheduled for completion in fiscal year 2028. So that project at our Upper San Leandro plant includes improvements across the whole plant to remove capacity limitations, so that we can bolster its capacity to treat water supply for the West of Hills area. It's important that we have resiliency so that if we do need to supply water west of Hills, if we don't have access to the Caldecott aqueduct that runs through the Caldecott tunnel, that we have some backup supply options. And also to make sure that when one plant has to go out of commission because of regular planned updates or an emergency, that we have some resiliency and reliability. We have upgraded our Caldecott aqueduct to be able to withstand a Hayward 7.0 earthquake. But we want to make sure that we are resilient and able to provide reliable water to customers, even though we will have disruptions in a Hayward 7.0. This is just for major infrastructure that would take years to rebuild. We need to make sure that is sturdy and ready to withstand the best that we can plan for. So what's happening locally, though? So we're, as I mentioned, we have 4,200 miles of pipe, and we have other major facilities like smaller aqueducts that are conveying water through different portions of the service area. So our engineering team has provided a slide that lets you see where is construction happening in our community. So I'll point out some of the major projects that are happening. One at Clayton, Fairmount, and Webster. That's a rate control station. Design work is happening much later. We're really just starting to plan what are the needs at that site. You can see it in El Cerrito. There's a Glendale regulator that you can see just at the top of Kensington. That is a standby regulator. So we are planning on constructing a new water pressure regulator. Planning for that will start next year, and design work and construction through 2027. You can also see the Summit West power pumping plant and the Berryman pumping plant are on our list here. So those are both in Berkeley. And the plan is to replace the existing Summit West pumping plant and demolish the Berryman pumping plant. And design is going to start this year and construction by 2030. So we're always planning for our infrastructure improvements, and because it takes a long time. We are seeing our infrastructure aging and making sure that we get ahead of the problem. We also have some wastewater system projects. So the North Interceptor Rehabilitation Project is in Emeryville. That is going to involve rehabilitating the maintenance holes at our interceptor with Emeryville's conveyance pipes. So construction on that starts this summer. And I think actually it may have already occurred. So it is one of our major projects this year. We also have been closing we've been completing a major pipeline project, new 36-inch transmission pipelines that cross almost 14,000 feet of pipe from Southeast Berkeley all the way up through El Cerrito. We call this the Wildcat pipeline. And that is going on in El Cerrito along various streets, including Ashbury, Central, Clayton, Lincoln, and Richmond Street. So that's a major project that we've already completed the Berkeley phase a couple of years ago, and we've completed the El Cerrito phase just now. So those are some of the major projects that are going on right here in Ward 4. So I represent those areas that are in the previous slide. That includes Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville, El Cerrito, Kensington, and the northern portion of Oakland. Proud to represent our area and make sure that we are rehabilitating our local infrastructure. And here's a list of some of the planned pipeline construction. This list just includes Berkeley. We do have a lot of pipes under construction in this fiscal year in Emeryville and Albany and our whole service area. But just so you can see what's happening here in Berkeley, these are the clusters of streets that are getting replaced. We are going to replace 11 miles of pipeline in Berkeley over the next year. And this table gives you an idea of where we'll be working in Berkeley. So if you'd like to know more about the projects, you can visit ebmud.com and go to construction in my neighborhood. And if you'd like to receive an alert when there's an outage in your area, you can sign up for notifications at ebmud.com/alerts. So one of my goals, however, with our planned pipeline construction is to open a dialogue with all of our cities. And I'm focused on Berkeley to start with, because Berkeley just passed a major ballot measure that increases funding for street rehabilitation. I was proud to support the ballot measure, and we now should be able to see Berkeley taking advantage of that funding, expanding the 5-year paving plan. But what I would like to see is an increase of a partnership approach that we have taken here and there. But when we dig the streets, we are spending public money. And when Berkeley does that to rehabilitate the street, it costs significant amounts of money. When we do that, it costs significant amounts of money. But when we do that together, we're able to save, both parties, both agencies are able to save about a quarter or so, it can be more, it can be less, but about at least a quarter of our investment we're able to save by doing those projects together. Effectively, dig once is the name of this initiative. So I'd like us to dig once, not forever, but for that particular rehabilitation. Let's get as many utilities when we need to use the streets and improve the streets. Let's try to dig once and be more efficient. And that means we'll be able to do more rehabilitation work in the long run. The cities will be able to do more rehabilitation work in the long run. We'll be able to work together and stretch our supplies, stretch our resources further. So that's a goal of mine. We have been doing some of this, but we're not always that flexible. I very much understand our limitations. When we have identification of some small leaks, so many of these pipes, for one reason or another, it could be because they're just an older vintage, and our predictive model tells us that pipe is probably going to fail pretty soon. It could be that we actually have seen real leaks already happening on that pipe. So there's various reasons why we flagged it, but we're usually identifying a pipe for construction because we think that there's a significant risk of a main break happening in the near future. It's time to replace it. The cities don't have that kind of urgency for one particular street. There may be a time or two that there's a really dangerous condition that needs to be replaced, but that's a lot. There's a lot of dangerous conditions at the streets in many of our cities right now. But for us, if we don't replace these pipes promptly, we could have a main break, and that could cause flooding on private property and waste a lot of water. So I know that it's not so easy to go to the cities and be like, why don't you go expand your 5-year plan for our 11 miles of pipe? There's a lot of considerations that the cities have, but we can do better. We can do more. So that's a major goal that I have going forward. And let's keep moving and talk about investing in climate resilience. So EBMUD has updated its climate action plan to respond to the increasing challenges of climate change. EBMUD has been committing to be carbon neutral by the year 2030. And we are the first water agency to have created a goal like that. It is one of the most ambitious goals of any water agency, any utility in the country that's engaged in water, wastewater, and we want to make sure that we are a part of the solution for preparing for climate change. Climate change is affecting every part of our operations, from water availability to wildfire threats, and for customer needs, for infrastructure risks. We're already seeing the effects. So we have more severe droughts, more frequent droughts, stronger storms, wildfire impacts on water quality, and sea level rise that threatens wastewater facilities. So our goal is to prepare for those challenges and also make sure that we are achieving carbon neutrality for water and wastewater by 2030. We're doing that by minimizing our energy use. So we're upgrading our facilities to use less power, be more efficient, and manage demand. We are purchasing low or emissions-free energy. So I'd like us to be buying from AVA and MCE as much as possible and to opt up to the greenest portfolio available. We also are transitioning those tariffs in the areas outside of the AVA and MCE service area where we have to pump water out of Freeport, for example. So we are making sure that we're procuring low emissions energy. We've looked at our fleet and transitioning to renewable diesel and transitioning our fleet to electric vehicles. Over 1,300 of our fleet vehicles have been replaced with zero emission models. And we were also a founding member of CalSTART. That's an industry table where government and private sector are able to talk with nonprofit advocates. And what we're doing is we're sharing some of the specs about what do we need for medium and heavy duty vehicles. We need to move from prototype to commercializing medium and heavy duty vehicles so that we can get alternative fuel and not be dependent on oil-based diesel for our construction equipment. So we also have creative uses of our land. We built this 5 megawatt photovoltaic project, solar, in Orinda, and that's now providing clean energy to the grid and to supplier operations. So EBMUD's updated climate action plan is a roadmap for how a large utility can lead in fighting climate change and adapting to its impacts, that we're very proud of being at the forefront of both climate resilience and adaptation. So let's talk a little bit more about adaptation. We're preparing for our climate impacts, not just by cutting emissions, but also adapting to the changes that are already happening. I already talked about diversifying water supply sources in our conservation programs, helping residents and businesses use water more efficiently. We're also upgrading our treatment plants to be able to be handling algae blooms, water turbidity, and other new challenges. We're thinking about sea level rise. It's a big conversation to be thinking about how will sea level rise affect the main wastewater treatment plant. And that's a conversation we have to have with many jurisdictions and figure out what is the best solution for the whole region. And we're also protecting our San Francisco Bay from nutrient discharge. You may remember the year that we had a very significant fish die-off because of heavy heat, a very big heat wave that caused the nutrient load that primarily comes from human waste from our wastewater treatment plant. We needed to make sure that we could reduce our nutrient load that was discharged into the bay. And I'm very proud to say that we were able to reduce our nutrient discharges by about half by using some creative scientific processes that we just hadn't challenged ourselves to do yet. So that takes care of this step. But I am concerned that we haven't solved the problem yet. We need to make sure that all of the dischargers in the Bay Area are following our lead and doing what can be done, that we're working with the Regional Water Quality Control Board to make sure that we are getting an achievable but safe nutrient load maximum that will govern San Francisco Bay and nutrient discharge, and that we're monitoring this to make sure that we don't have a situation like that again. I also want to make sure that we're really when the time is right and there's funding available, that we rightfully look to the federal government to help us with major infrastructure should that be necessary. We were looking down the barrel of potentially having to build $1 billion worth of infrastructure if we couldn't make those scientific improvements. Fortunately, we were able to find those workarounds and be able to reduce our nutrient discharge. But we have some realities of people are living here in this city, and we need to be able to use infrastructure to treat our wastewater so that we can protect the natural resources from its impacts. So these are the challenges that we're committed to addressing as we move forward. And lastly, we're supporting our wildlife and our watersheds in the McCollum River. We're making sure that we protect forest health and that we look at how our forests surviving in our increasingly dry climate. How are we investing in preparedness for the future? So we operate 24/7 control centers that increase system pressure for firefighting. We're making sure to manage reservoir water levels. So when we have a high risk or a red flag day, we top up the water reservoir, even though we normally wouldn't necessarily keep the reservoir completely full for water quality purposes. When we know that our local firefighters couldn't require those reservoirs during red flag days, we make sure that they're completely full. We make sure that when we're going to have disruptions to electricity on those public safety power shutoff days, that we deploy portable generators to make sure that the water is always pumping. And we also maintain local water storage to support aerial firefighting. It's important to know, as we're reflecting on the lessons learned from the 1991 East Bay Hills fire, that our local water supply system, just like we saw in the Palisades fire and in other fires that have been catastrophic around California and the country, that a municipal water supply system is not designed to be able to put out a wind-driven wildfire. We can make sure that the water is flowing into the hydrants to be able to take out a neighborhood scale fire. It requires strong standards of coverage to make sure that firefighters can get to a site within good standards of coverage to prevent that fire from overtaking the house and spreading. And so we're an important part of the solution to make sure that water is working in the hydrants. We're inspecting hydrants in fire zones annually. So we're making sure that that infrastructure is working, but we shouldn't confuse that situation with thinking that, that those hydrants are able to address a conflagration. When we have a wind-driven wildfire event, what we're learning, and I understand this very, very well because I also serve as the mayor's appointee on the Berkeley Disaster and Fire Safety Commission. It's just critically important that we understand the limits of that water supply system and the importance of prevention through vegetation management. So for individual homes to be able to manage the first 5 feet in front of your house and around your house and address combustible vegetation in that zone 0 area, that prevents houses from acquiring so much heat that it transfers the fire from structure to structure. There's many layers to it, but we have to be thinking about how does the wildfire spread so that the firefighters are able to control the fire before it spreads so much that it's already a conflagration. We also have to be thinking about the types of fires that are already overtaking our community and be prepared to leave early. These are the messages that we'll be hearing from the Berkeley Fire Department as we go from this year into next year's fire season. And I'm proud to be working with the city leadership on incentive funding to make that transition easier. But back to what EBMUD is doing, we are partnering with actors like East Bay Regional Parks District and the City of Berkeley, University of California. We are partnering with them by making sure that we clear a fuel break for so that a fire that starts in Tilden Park, or if there's some kind of lightning event or other ignition on our watershed, that we manage the fuel on our land, that we remove high risk vegetation, that we clear the understory of eucalyptus and other brush. And frankly, I think we need to be removing that high risk vegetation and acquiring more resources from the state to be able to do that, so that we can have a more resilient community for fire protection. So that's what I would like to see us doing, and we are continuing to do that. I'm glad that we were able to acquire a grant to do that along Grizzly Peak Boulevard, and that extends quite a ways out of Berkeley city limits into the area that's East Bay Mud Watershed land right next to Tilden Park. So we're clearing a lot of the fuel that's in that area. And I think we need to be working closer with the Parks District in the city to make sure that we have a comprehensive strategy and funding plan for state resources. So I've already talked a little bit about this, going into the next slide. So this is an example of some of the proactive log burning that we're doing to make sure that we reduce the fire fuel that's available in a controlled way. Of course, we use the grazing. If you've been hiking in the hills, you will see goats, much of the year, and so we continue to have grazing and other productive projects to make sure that we're reducing fire fuel and risk. And next slide. So these are some images from the Fish Ranch Road fuel break project that I described earlier. So it continues past Grizzly Peak Boulevard onto Fish Ranch Road, and look at how much we cleared. So we've got a lot of fire fuel out there. We're not done yet. This project was a collaboration to make a 3-mile long shaded fuel break near the community of Canyon, and fuel modification included limbing trees and thinning brush to reduce fuel loading. So this work was funded through a CAL FIRE grant awarded to the Moraga Orinda Fire District. And this follows the work that we did on the Grizzly Peak program that we did earlier. Next, we'll talk about investing in financial sustainability. We are a public agency, we're not for profit, and we serve you, the public. Our rate funds directly fund operations and capital improvements, and we're the only California water utility to receive a Moody's Investors Services highest AAA water bond rating. So that fiscal health is something that we're extremely proud of, to be an agency that is able to borrow cheaply and make sure that we're able to pass those savings along to customers by being able to invest in our infrastructure at relatively affordable rates. We've been serving the East Bay for 102 years, and we see ourselves as stewards of the environment and protecting public health. Our mission is to provide this high quality, reliable water and wastewater service at fair and reasonable rates, and to be a steward for future generations. But we're also a community with wide income disparities. 25% of our households with incomes over $200,000, and 25% of our households with incomes with less than $50,000. So in order to make the improvements that we need, we have to be able to provide support for those who are struggling to pay their water bill. Everybody deserves a right to water. So we have a generous customer assistance program that can significantly reduce bills for those who qualify. So our customer assistance program helps those who have trouble paying their water bills. It reduces the water bill by 50% and reduces wastewater bills by 35%. It's not all of the water unlimited. The discount only applies to the first 8 units, but that's an important amount of baseline water that we need to make sure that everybody can afford. It's the same income thresholds as PG&E's CARE program. So if your friends, neighbors, and other community members are already qualifying for PG&E's CARE program, or they meet these income eligibility thresholds you see here on the screen, then encourage them to sign up for CAP. It's easy to get an application. You can just call our main number at 1-866-40-EBMUD. And we pick up the phone in a minute. We're really proud of that customer care and rapid response when people call for anything from a dispatch when there's a water main break and we need to get somebody dispatched to fix it, or when a customer just has questions about their bill or wants to sign up for the CAP program. So we also worked with the cities to make sure that the discount applies on the city's sewer collection charges. So that Berkeley pass-through of the sewer charge, Berkeley has built in a discount into that pass-through charge as well. We also, this next slide shows roughly how our budget is investing back in water service. Over half of our budget is going directly into improving our infrastructure. We also, the next major chunk of our budget is for water service, that's storage, treatment, delivery, and maintenance of our water system. We have a small amount that pays for administration and customer service. We strongly value that high quality of customer service. Another portion goes into natural resource management, making sure that we have a high quality watershed that's resilient for fire protection and forest health, and that protects our water supply. And then additional planning for water supply conservation programs and other water supply purchases that we have to make. So that's how your cents on a dollar are spent. Overall, we have $1 billion annual budget, and we strive to make sure that we're spending your money, your ratepayer money, responsibly. Similar kind of breakdown on the wastewater side. The wastewater treatment and infrastructure improvements are each 43 cents on the dollar, and then a small portion goes to customer service and environmental and regulatory compliance. We have a lot of important regulatory issues to make sure that we're sampling for, making sure that we are looking at the chemicals that are coming through our system, We're carefully monitoring what's happening with PFAS right now. We were the first water agency to start sampling for COVID-19, and that was an important contribution to public health in the region and across the nation. And that came out of the ingenuity of our wastewater treatment staff and our laboratory, which is also 3 cents on the dollar. So that's how we spend your ratepayer money in our wastewater system. We did just complete a cost of service study that looked at how are we making sure that all of our charges are proportionate to the actual cost of providing the service, to make sure that when we're designing our rates, that they are fair and actually represent the cost of providing that service. And we were able, through that process, to make sure that we can actually reduce the fixed charge on the bill. So the fixed monthly service charge actually was reduced by about 25% compared to the percentage of the total budget. I think that's important because it helps make sure that there's a fairness in how everybody is charged, but it also is helpful because we know that you can't avoid that part of your bill. You can avoid the volumetric parts of the bill by conserving more, and I'm very glad to see that we're rewarding communities that have high conservation customers who are working hard to be as efficient as possible, are seeing a little bit of a lower bill because we've reassessed our cost of service study. And next, we're investing in the future. And what does that mean? Everything that I've talked about is investing in the future, but here I'm talking about our education program. And our focus on education is about driving engagement from all segments of the public and stewardship. It's really important to me to make sure that all ages are getting strong backgrounds in what we do to support the public, to support public health, environmental stewardship. We want to make sure that as a public institution that isn't always the first place that constituents call. Many people call their council member first or their legislator first, don't really know how to reach us. That we're getting the word out about how do we manage these concerns in the East Bay. But it's also about preparing a future workforce, really inspiring younger generations to think about going into environmental careers or just being environmental citizens. So one of these programs is our K through 12 offerings, and I'm especially enthusiastic about expanding 5th grade field trips. So while we offer school assemblies and lots of classroom resources, what I found really concerning a few years ago is looking at the disparity in Title I schools and certain school districts just not taking advantage of our field trips, where rangers help the kids learn about the watershed. They get their hands dirty. They're really getting a full outdoor education. The way I think really ought to be universal. Every 5th grade classroom, just like the state guidelines say, needs to learn the water cycle. But how can you learn the water cycle just in a classroom? PowerPoint, is in color, but it's just not going to give you that full sensation and understanding of looking around at a downslope area and understanding that water is traveling underground. And that water is traveling from the time that the rain hits the soil. It's actually going deep underground and moving through groundwater conveyance into a reservoir. And there's so many angles to teach this in. Our rangers are both natural resources stewards on the land, but they also know how to talk to our school kids. So our fifth grade is really critical because the State Board of Education guidelines call for every 5th grader to learn the water cycle. That's part of the curriculum. So that's the important area to target to make sure that this is coupled with a rare opportunity to make sure that every kid gets access to the outdoors in ways that are otherwise just not happening. So I think that can inspire more appreciation for a natural environment, career development for people who, for kids who could start to see themselves in those critical STEM types of jobs. and this will be good for environment and economic equity. So excited about our program, which is to fund 100% of the transportation for Title I schools to be able to get from their school site to our watershed. And then we also include a water treatment plant tour as well in those offerings. We're funding for non-Title I schools, we're funding 50% of the transportation for those. And classroom teachers are loving it. We're getting all of the availability booked. I want to make sure that we keep our staffing up so that we're able to accommodate more classrooms as we reach out to school districts and remind them how important this is. I want to make sure that this is between the Parks District and East Bay MUD and other regional offerings, that every fifth grader is getting an outdoor education experience. So our program is aligned with next generation science standards, and 812 Berkeley students participated in the program in the most recent school year. That included kids from Washington Elementary, Oxford, Rosa Parks, Shu Ren, and Berkeley High. And another thing that we're doing is not just creative programs that we offer to K through 12 students, but for adults too. We have programs that are available virtually, that are available in person. So these water walks, sometimes joined by our senior management team and even our general manager, who is a wonderful historian and loves to walk and talk. So we offer these water walks opportunities to learn more about the watershed. We have drinking water and wastewater treatment plant tours. We have an intensive community water academy where a cohort of about 20 to 25 community water leaders will have the opportunity to tour many facilities and get lectures and interactive presentations on the different facilities and challenges, just like this, but even more. It occurs over about a dozen sessions. And so that's an application-based program. I would encourage any of you to consider applying or to refer the opportunity when we are out with a call for applications. We have our Water on Wheels tank, for community events. I saw lots of people at the Solana Stroll just getting a drink of fresh water from our Water on Wheels. And we're, of course, tabling next to that. And you can see here in the graphic, we've got some interactive presentations for conservation incentives and rebates, as well as our wastewater bay protection programs. So those are just some of our offerings that we have for adult education. And that takes me to the end of our presentation that we have here. I'm glad to take some questions and make sure that we have covered everything that you're interested in. So, once again, this is our 100th anniversary with East Bay MUD. I think we're 102 this year, but we recently celebrated our centennial, and because of that, we are proud to be your regional water and wastewater public utility. And thanks for having me here again to present on questions about East Bay MUD. So here to take your questions.
Great. Okay, I'll ask the question I was going to ask before, which was, when you replace the pipes, do you replace with plastic or metal? And what's done with the old pipes?
That's a great question. I know some of the answers for you, and I will get back to you about some of the other questions. We are no longer replacing any pipes with polyvinyl plastic. So there was a generation of about 20 years where that was sold to water utilities. That was roughly around the late 60s, 70s, 80s, and those pipes burst very quickly. So we started replacing those in the 90s and finished replacing those in the early 2000s, and we litigated the failure of those products to be delivering the value that they were sold for. and got a fair recovery for East Bay Mud ratepayers. So those are no longer the industry standard. I'm glad that plastic is out of our water supply and water conveyance. Many of the pipes that are lasting the longest are cast iron, steel pipes. We also have legacy pipes that are asbestos cement, and so many of the pipes that are in the ground are made out of asbestos cement. There's a lot of vintages of pipes, and so we don't have just one type of pipe, but the technology makes a difference for deciding when are we going to replace it with. But all of our new pipes are metal, and the exact type and blend of metal I don't recall off the top of my head. Be glad to get back to you about it.
Do you see that Michael has his hand up?
Yeah, I only see the speaker view, so let me
Thank
go to Gal.
you. Thank you. I see it blended in. Hi, Michael.
Yeah, hi Michael. Yeah, I switched to gallery view so I can see your hands now.
Yeah, it was really fantastic work on education. But in your education programs for these young people, do you say anything about the California Public Trust Doctrine? And that they actually own the water? I mean, they're not just watching everything happen?
Yeah, so the environmental education program is primarily offered by rangers who know the watershed science, the geology, the biology. They're not lawyers, so it would be hard to give them a whole education on the public trust doctrine. I think it would be great to have a community presentation that brought more of the public trust doctrine out to the public, and we can do a little bit of that here. The idea that a theory under common law that's existed since Roman times means that that these rights cannot be taken away from the people, that the public trust must be protected, and it's enforceable through the courts. And we have seen that enforced to preserve Mono Lake from drainage that would have left it vulnerable to degradation of the ecosystem and the food chain in Mono Lake. That would have also had other air quality impacts on neighboring communities. We've seen the public trust doctrine used for other coastal protection matters. And we haven't really had a lot of public trust questions for East Bay Mud because we are not directly connected to the coast precisely. We also have good relationships with our regulators and with the environmental community. So we haven't had a public trust kind of question come up as far as.
What about the Public Utilities Commission? Because there are conflicts of interest, and in many cases, what they've done is they've actually given the public trust to the utility. If the utility is supervising the low income grant programs, there is a conflict of interest. And what do you do about that conflict of interest? Because private equity right now, well, I mean, you in investing for the future, your Moody's ratings come back, but Moody's ratings oftentimes like to emphasize private equity. And I mean, what do you do about those public-private conflicts in rate making?
If there's any, I don't think it's a conflict of interest to make sure that we are managing our budget in a reliable way that ensures that we're able to demonstrate to Moody's that we're always able to pay our bills back. So when we take out a bond to repair infrastructure, making sure that we're able to keep water mains from breaking excessively, that we're rehabilitating our water treatment plants so that we can all drink clean water, that we can maintain other major environmental stewardship projects, and then we make sure that our budget and rates are balanced so that we're able to pay our bills back And that reliability of our fiscal system, our fiscal sustainability, has earned us that AAA bond rating. So I feel like that's not a conflict of interest. That's the right balancing of interests, and that's why we have a democratically elected water utility. We have a board of directors that's elected to represent you. I am accessible and accountable to you, and take the feedback about how are we managing our budget. And if I heard feedback that the rates are so high and unaffordable that we need to really think about not investing in our infrastructure as much, I probably would need to challenge that and explain the importance of these issues. But we do have important affordability programs to manage how affordability is addressed for those who are really struggling. But we can't afford to fall backwards on maintaining our infrastructure. And it's not just to make sure that Moody's gets, well, Moody's is the rating agency. It's not just to make sure that our bondholders get paid back. That ultimately means that we pay less money in interest when we are reliable about paying our bond bills back.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, Carol?
I have more questions, but I was wanting anyone else to have a chance to. AI, artificial intelligence, is being used in almost everything. And I mean, I'm sure indirectly it's being used, but is it being used in terms of East Bay MUD? And if so, is it saving anything? Is it being useful?
Yeah, two aspects to that question. What is AI? What's happening with AI right now? So we have invested a partnership, of a few million dollars in partnership with the University of California at Berkeley, the Center for Smart Infrastructure. So it's not all AI. Some of it is robotics. Some of it is just normal algorithms and just data analysis. So not every advanced use of data requires AI, but it is quite useful to be able to find patterns when we deploy a listening device on a water pipe, and we're analyzing the sound that device is able to pick up on the water pipe. This is like in the middle of the street, underground. We're able to hear differences on the water mains that are about to break compared to the water mains that are not. So we're able to use that data and be able to address a water main before it breaks. That use of technology is really interesting, really exciting, because we might be able to catch that break without it occurring, without having to patch up a couple leaks before we say, okay, the next one we'll consider replacing the whole thing. We're able to catch those vulnerabilities much earlier and much more reliably with precision as we gain more data and understand how to fit the puzzle pieces together. There's another question around AI, which is the use of water, and it's kind of in connection with data centers. And at this time, I don't have information that that's really an active concern in the East Bay MUD water service area. But I think for state, national water supplies, that's something to be on the lookout for.
I also was wondering where you were talking about the PFAS, the forever chemicals. How do you filter them out? And is that, reasonably being done? Are we making any progress?
Mm-hmm. Well, first, one thing to know is that PFAS is barely detectable in our system. We're below the public health goal, which is good. So we're well below the public health goal for PFAS in our service area. So we meet all public health goals, all regulatory standards. The amount of PFAS in our system is really just a few parts per billion, and that's not enough to be very concerned. We're actually not completely sure how it got there because we have a very protected watershed. It was found in Upper San Leandro Reservoir, so just one of our local reservoirs had a sample that did include some parts. But overall, we have a very clean water supply, and it ranks among the cleanest water supplies in the entire country for all different potential contaminants, including PFAS. What's concerning, however, is the discharge of PFAS in our wastewater discharge. And that's not, coming from our wastewater treatment plant process. That's coming from our, contribution to the discharge, our residents, our customers' contribution to the discharge. We are getting that from plastic packaging. We're getting that from food wrappers. We're getting that from practically everything because PFAS is so ubiquitous in our consumer product supply chain. So we have a lot of work to do to clean up our supply chain and get PFAS out of it, because our wastewater discharge, I will correct this if I had a different. My understanding is that our PFAS is approximately in the 500 million range, 500 parts per million range. So that's dramatically higher than the drinking water supply sample. Our wastewater discharge is much higher. Now, we don't have any regulatory requirements on that discharge at this time. We certainly need to move in that direction, so that all dischargers, all water bodies need to have a regulatory mandate to clean up for PFAS. But it's not so easy. There isn't enough activated charcoal in the world to filter PFAS. And the chemical itself does not easily break down. The chemical has properties that when other contaminants over time have a half-life that means that the chemical breaks down over time, the components of PFAS actually find ways to recombine and reconnect instead of degrading. The chemical bond stays strong for an extraordinary long amount of time. Frankly, this is why they're called forever chemicals. So the treatments that are available, both water filtration, other potential treatments that may be able to cause a chemical breakdown, for the chemicals, are still under review. And I hope that we find more solutions soon, because like I said, for communities where that's their only choice, they can implement carbon filtration at the customer level or at the municipal level, but we won't be able to do this for every single treatment apparatus. Likely wouldn't be able to use that type of approach. Reverse osmosis is very energy inefficient. So these are serious concerns, and I hope that it's something that we're paying close attention to. But we don't have to worry about our drinking water safety. We're just monitoring what's happening. As we see what we are doing with our own bodies, we see that passing out through the wastewater treatment process, and we should be concerned.
Along those same lines with the wastewater treatment, I imagine that you gather a huge amount of plastics and other things that are pretty small. When you gather them and you don't want them to go out into the ocean, what do you do with them? How do you dispose of it?
That's a good question. I know that they're separated out. There's a multi-step process in the wastewater treatment plant where the contaminants like plastics, and we see all sorts of things in there. Things that are hard plastics, soft plastics. It's quite a lot of plastic, actually. Although, paper towels, things that haven't broken down yet, things that were marketed as flushable wipes. And we should be clear that there is no such thing as a flushable wipe. The only thing that should be going into the toilet are things that came out of you and toilet paper. That's what should go down the toilet. And things that are marketed as flushable wipes can ruin your own plumbing. They can ruin the municipal system, and they certainly will just add to the strain that's put on the wastewater treatment plant. So I know that we do have a disposal process, but we basically send it away like, you know, to a trash disposal receiver. It's not used, you know, it's not usable for compost. It's not usable for land application like the wastewater residual is. So when we have the wastewater residual, that those organics that are solids, those solids that are dewatered, we do find farms that are able to receive that and get rejuvenated with nutrients using the biosolids. But we have to separate out the other plastics and impurities. And I don't know the exact you know, disposal site where we're sending it, but it's part of that system where it's going to essentially the garbage. And Michael.
Yeah, well, are you working with manufacturers on that? Because you'd think that with a lot of these problems, they would, are they working with you and the state of California, or are they trying to hide with Mr. Trump's help?
Mm-hmm. And are you talking about the wipes again?
Well, yeah, wipes and
Yeah.
and all these additives.
Right. You know, I haven't you know, heard about is the industry trying to work with the wipes companies. You know, we certainly should engage them before we take the next step, because I'm still seeing packaging that's, you know, labeled flushable, and that means that it's costing public municipal water systems, wastewater treatment systems more money from customers who are fooled by this and think it's harmless, think that they're being good stewards by buying, you know, something that's called flushable wipes. It's frankly unfair competition because companies, you know, I went camping recently and bought some wipes that were not labeled flushable. It properly instructed me to dispose of them in a responsible way. Some of them may be compostable, but that doesn't make them flushable. So we may need to have a regulatory solution. We may need to have a cost recovery solution through the civil justice system. We certainly need our customers to be aware. So when it's the right public communication message, we will certainly remind people that, you know, wipes are not flushable. There's no such thing, and we'll get the word out again. You know, right now we're talking a lot about fire resilience, and
well, that's the thing about the insurance. The insurance, your talk about insurance. Basically, municipal system does not cover a conflagration, and that sounds amazingly like the Price-Anderson Act, you know, for nuclear power. That, you know, all you need is an exemption, and it's like they're like a serious discussion that requires honesty, or is it just a game like they're saying on
yeah, obviously they want to sell their product and they're going to market their product. We did support federal legislation authored by Congressman Jared Huffman from the Bay Area that makes it illegal to market flushable wipes when they're not flushable, and it references the appropriate scientific standard for that. So it's clearly defined, and that bill is still pending in Congress. Obviously, it's a very difficult time to expect the federal government to you know, to work for us and to pass good bills. But you know, this is something that there's wide agreement among, you know, municipal wastewater systems. So this, you know, it's not a partisan issue whether we have to spend more money rehabilitating our pipes. So I think you know, we hope to see that bill pass.
Yeah.
And I will take a moment just to address what is happening at the federal level. We, you know, I think we have very important values that we hold dear here in the East Bay, about, you know, values that range from environmental commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ensuring that we protect the most vulnerable. So as we see federal acquisition requirements being changed to fit a bizarre partisan agenda that has, in most cases, nothing to do with the types of products or services being procured, I'm not interested in compromising our values. That's the kind of perspective I'm taking as we confront new changes to various contracts that we have with the federal government. We will get through the next 4 years, but it's going to take a lot of resistance. Applaud the league for supporting No Kings and for appreciating the importance of of having our participatory democracy and understanding the context that we're in right now. So that's the perspective that I'll take. If we're asked to compromise our values, we do have a few contracts that come up with the federal government. We buy some electricity from the federal government. We already have our contract, in force for the Central Valley Project water. I'm not aware of if that contract requires being reopened at any time. But those are, we're in those challenging times, and I think it's important that we stay true to our values and speak up.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have another maybe simple question. I've been using somewhat those laundry detergent sheets. It sounded like it was going to save, ecologically, it made a lot of sense. Is it what it's supposed to be? Is there residue from it because it's in some sort of paper form that dissolves instead of the liquid detergent?
I haven't heard of that yet. So
Oh,
I haven't heard of detergent sheets. I think there's been a lot of recent discovery around pods still having residual plastic that doesn't fully decompose. So that while that doesn't cause damage to the pipes or anything like that, it is contributing. Could be contributing to PFAS. So what you might do is research whether there's whether there are forever chemicals, PFAS,
yes.
that are shed or discharged from dissolution of that product. So the internet research about the product may be helpful. I definitely encourage looking to Environmental Working Group. They're an excellent resource for emerging contaminants.
Thank you. I have looked at them, but not about that. Any other questions? There's several people haven't asked questions yet. Do you have any? Okay, well, we always learn from you. Thank you so much. You're doing a terrific job. We really appreciate your generosity of time and knowledge, sharing it with us.
Thanks, Carol. Yeah, thank you, League of Women Voters. It's a pleasure to be able to present to you, and thank you for making your presentation available on the internet to be able to share with the public as well. We want to make sure that the community gets to understand our water utility, our wastewater utility, what we're up to, and how are we being stewards for the future, investing in the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann.